Business owners, my fellow citizens, and my customers and my prospective customers. My name is Daryl Guberman. I'm the CEO of Guberman-PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. I will say this, business owners, we've been assisting companies in manufacturing and quality certification as well in all ISO derivatives. Business owners, today's video is based on another video that we did just mere 3 weeks ago last time, and that video will be able to find in the basically body of the description below this video. Pentagon pushes defense companies to limit use of Chinese supplies. QA expert Daryl Guberman, CEO, says otherwise. And I did, and I'm going to show you today. Today's video is China gloats F-35 waiver exposes U.S. dependence on Chinese rare earth products. Yes, business owners, it's true. It is absolutely true that our military is compromised from this. And this has been taking place since about 2014, where the Pentagon waived rights for China or sanctions so that they could build parts. You know why, business owners? It's cheaper there, not just the rare earth minerals. It's cheaper so that Lockheed and Boeing and UTC and Honeywell could make all of this profit. Raytheon UTC now can make all of this profit. That's a real reason. The root cause is because of profitability, money. Let's continue. In 2013, I gave a speech at the American Society for Qualities. At the time, the American Society for Quality and the American National Standards Institute owned ANAB, the American National Accrediting Board, 50-50. There was a guy, Dave Levy, a Region 3 director, who was sent there purposefully to disparage me, to try to damage my reputation. And you can write all kinds of crap about me, but when it comes to who I am and what I do, okay, that is more than even a reputation. Reputations are destroyed every day, business owners. And so let me continue on with this. Dave Levy was there, and he got up when I was giving my speech about how quality was out of control. And this is what he said. He said, there is no restriction on you doing business unaccredited or accredited. And as I said before, ANAB has no problem with what you're doing. In fact, we support you, sir. And I'm going to play this for you because we have it in video and audio. And here it is. Actually, we support you, sir. So let's continue on. In 2016, Randy Doherty, who used to be the vice president of ANAB, the chairman of the IAF, and he was presently on the IAF as a treasurer and also the principal on the IAF tax form, basically invited us to join either ANAB or the IAF or both. You're going to find out why we pushed it off and said we want to be independent from this mess. We've got approval from a Region 3 director who ASQ owned 50% of ANAB. You have Randy, who's the former ANAB vice president and now technical advisor in 2016, inviting us. So you basically had 100% saying, Daryl, we approve what you're doing. Wouldn't you say that, business owners? I would. So we continue on. ANSI. ANSI is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental organization that has both federal agencies and corporations on board, been around for almost 100 years. Let's go in a little bit of history here. Randy Doherty, at the time, was vice president of ANAB, the chairman of the IAF in 2015. He was also the principal on the IAF 990 tax form. And by the way, the IAF is incorporated in Delaware, an American company. He handed over leadership to this Chinese national, Zhao Jinwu, who is also the chairman of the China National Accreditation Services, which certified the suspect Bio-Level 4 lab in WUHAN China. You'll see a picture of him very shortly. He is forced and mandated by his country of origin, Communist China, to take anyone's data by Chinese national intelligence law Article number 7. Let me move up just a little bit to give you some cybersecurity history. Randy in 2017 was advertised on the Department of Homeland Security's website, while his buddy over here, who's been involved with our quality since 1994, was sitting as the IAF chairman, incorporated in Delaware, and also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services. As a private entity, I don't think they should be or could be on the Department of Homeland Security. So we did a video on it. Within 3 months, he disappeared. They didn't have him advertised anymore because I think somebody went, oops, nobody's going to catch this. Well, I caught it. Let's continue on. ANSI took over complete control over ANAB in 2018. You have federal agencies and corporations on board. We bring out Joe Batia. Joe Batia is the CEO of ANSI. The reason why we have failure is it is a failure. We see failure all the time, such as Boeing. Boeing sits on ANSI's board. Boeing sits on ANSI's board right over by the FAA. The FAA seceded inspection to Boeing in 2009, allowing them to design, develop, fly, and probably sign off flight worthiness for the 737 MAX. You have issues with the 777, 787, and that stems from a procedure that goes back to 2002. It basically says from Boeing that if you have an AS9100 certificate, your quality is excellent, we really don't have to send in people to evaluate your systems, source inspection, etc., and we'll take your parts as is. That started in 2002. If you'd like to see it, it will also be in the body of this video in the description. You also have an issue with pharmaceutical, like Pfizer sitting on ANSI's board, Johnson & Johnson sitting on ANSI's board, right over by the FDA, right over by the USDA, right over by the CDC and NIH, all of them cavorting together. Pfizer was found out skipping critical processes, quality processes, and standard steps within the manufacture of COVID. You have Johnson & Johnson. 60 million vials of material COVID injection was recalled because of contamination. Okay, they also skipped quality steps as well. You also go into electronics and automotive. We can go on and on with a litany of items, but let's continue. We have Randy Doherty. After he handed over leadership to Zhao Jinwu, the Chinese National Accreditation Services chief executive, who was standing in the lab at WUHAN China, the bio-level 4 lab that is suspect in a release. There's issues here. He's been involved with our quality since 1994. Randy also said this. Randy said, I'm just going to hold it there. Please stop the video. It's about an IAF MLA, multilateral arrangement or agreement organization, is equivalent in accreditation to ANAB. He also said that an IAF MLA, again, you can read this, and these countries are Iran, Pakistan, Libya at one time. They got their certificate taken away because of lack of payment. And even North Korea, Kim Jong-un, yes, his country, his neck of the woods. They were part of the IAF, an American-based company, who also sits on the IAF. But guess what? Lockheed Martin. We're going to be doing a little bit more down the line. You're going to see this. ANAB also sits on ANSI's board, right over by Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, the FAA, the FDA, who approved ANAB doing third-party certifications for food safety and all this mess. Also, you have ANSI and ANAB. They were sitting on the IF when the Communist Nationals, Zhao Jinwu, was a leader between 2015 and 2021. Do you think that I, as a proud American, though being approved by Dave Levy in 2013 and then being invited to join either ANAB or IAF in 2016, do you think I'm going to be a schmuck? That's a quality term. And join a company that may be compromised through cybersecurity? And guess why? Because ANSI, ANAB have over 10 different registrars who are accredited to do ANAB accreditation in Communist China. Isn't that a tender moment in a turbulent world? And here you go. Here is Iran and Pakistan. And I say this emphatically to the population of both of those countries. It is not your fault, ladies and gentlemen, but it is your leadership. My mother used to say they should take the leaders and put them in the boxing ring and let them beat the crap out of each other and leave we the people alone. So here you go. They were both involved with 9/11. And one of the worst items, business owners, my fellow citizens, and also my customers, is that you have Pakistan on there as an IAF MLA, just like Iran. They're both equivalent in accreditation to ANAP. Pakistan, who harbored Osama bin Laden, the mastermind that killed 3,000 innocent people just alone in the Twin Towers, okay? And what does this say about his leadership? Having such organizations, he's cavorting. I showed you, ANZI and ANAP sit on the IAF, right over by these countries. These countries who killed Americans. What does it say about Joe Bathia's leadership? I'll tell you what it says when the camera goes off. Also, the United States and China had an upcoming event, second China-USA workshop on challenges of emerging infections, laboratory safety, and global health security. And this is what it says. The workshop will focus on 5 sessions: gain of function research, gene editing, targeting, and delivery. Business owners and my fellow citizens. And the date on there is May 17 to 19, 2017. Well, isn't that a tender moment? That's 2 years before COVID broke out. And guess where this was held? WUHAN China. On top of it, here's Zhao Jinwu in the lab at WUHAN China, handing them over a certificate of accreditation for laboratory certification. Let me just say this, ISO 17025. Let me just say this, okay? Pamela Sale, under deposition, who was the vice president of laboratory accreditation, said this: from one laboratory to another, there are no protocols. So what is that telling? What is that telling us? I'll tell you what it is. No wonder why the virus may have been released. Sitting on ANZI's board, okay, recently I told you about this video. The video is China gloats F-35 waiver, exposes U.S. dependence on rare earth minerals and what have you. Well, sitting on there on ANZI, and within that article, they mentioned Honeywell supplies materials to the F-35 that are trying to get away from the rare minerals. They can't. Also, you have UTC, who also sits. Raytheon UTC sits on ANZI's board. Do you see this? Right over by Boeing, right over by Lockheed. Many aerospace companies sit there by the FDA, FBI, DOJ, DOD, FTC, etc., etc. So let's go into this. Let's go into Lockheed Martin, our major number 1 military supplier, who sits also on IAF's board, right over by Iran and Pakistan. What makes it worse is the CEO. If they don't know about it, something's wrong with them. They should be released, and so should the board of directors. Absolutely. Because sitting there right over by Lockheed is Iran and Pakistan. Iran and Pakistan. Pakistan, who harbored Osama bin Laden. Iran, whose leadership says, yes, we supplied all kinds of things. We harbored the terrorists of 9/11. The leadership, not the people. Just remember that, business owners and my fellow citizens. It's the leadership again. And Lockheed Martin gets hacked by China in 2009. How did we know that? Of course, there's a major article that was on CNN, 2009. This is it. Disgusting. So, in 2012, a division of United Technologies, at the time, Sikorsky Aircraft, gets hacked by China. 2012. In 2015, Lockheed Martin wants to go buy Sikorsky Aircraft. And here you go. Do you read this? With China's okay, Lockheed Martin closes in on the purchase of Sikorsky Aircraft. What is that telling you? And what makes this worse than any title is that the 4 representatives in Connecticut, DeLauro, Blumenthal, Himes, and Murphy, all say this. But Connecticut's lawmakers praise Lockheed Martin for clearing its last regulatory hurdle. Well, basically, they complimented Lockheed for working with Communist China. Let's read it the way it should have been written. But Connecticut's lawmakers praised Lockheed Martin for clearing its last regulatory hurdle by working with Communist China. Yes, and on top of it, Lockheed has a payoff list. It's called disbursements. Every state of the union, both Democrats and Republicans, get paid off by Lockheed Martin. Yeah, it's $1,000, $5,000, $11,000. But look at it. It is pay off the politician to sign the next appropriation. We wrote a Miss Lisa Gross, okay, who at that time was the SAS ethics officer at Lockheed Martin. She said, in order to meet our customers' requirements, Lockheed Martin deals with entities that are certified through the International Accreditation Form. Your company is not a registrar of the IAF, and therefore your accreditation is not recognized by Lockheed Martin. We tried to write these people to let them know that they're sitting on an organization, the IAF, at the time, that is being watched over by Communist China. They got hacked in 2009 by Communist China. I think they may be part of Communist China. Lockheed Martin and their piss-poor management. Piss poor is a quality term. It means they're not good. And do you know who I feel sorry for at these aerospace companies? Because I used to work at Sikorsky Aircraft between 1983 and 1995. I feel sorry for the guys and gals on the floor because they usually know more than the management. They are better than the management many times over again. And I do that because you know something? I was there for that longevity and I saw it firsthand that the people on the floor had more in their little finger than half of the management. They'd come around with their black suits on and their ties. They look good in a suit, nothing up there. So yes, so we warned them. Would you want business owners? I got approved by Dave Levy. He said, we have no issue. ANAB supports you. Then I get a letter from Randy Dory. He said, no problem. Do it. You know something? Come on board. Join us. Do you think I'm going to be a schmuck and join those organizations that are deeply embedded at the time with Communist China? Well, Communist China has been deeply embedded with us since 1994. This is basically a flow chart, business owners, of what's happening. The government, the FAA, government contractor like Boeing or Lockheed, and then you have the private concerns over here, ANSI and ANAB. And the last thing we're going to show you is this. The last thing we're going to show you is this, is that ANAB is an underwriter for the International Accreditation Forum incorporated in Delaware and also the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation. Yes, we got this and we pulled it off, and we pulled it off the website for Rolf PTF Limited, 8/25/2018. So this is it. ANSI ANAB is an underwriter. That means if you have issues with WUHAN China, if you have issues with any type of failure and it's accredited by another company like UKAS and all the rest of that, remember, UKAS is equivalent in accreditation to ANAB. So by them saying that, they take all legal responsibility for any failures. But because ANSI, ANAB all cavort together on ANSI's board with the FAA, FTC, FDA, FAA, FTC, DOJ, DOD, Honeywell, UTC, Raytheon UTC. An underwriter is this. An underwriter is any party that evaluates and assumes another party's risk for a fee, and they're responsible. Don't let anybody kid you. But because the American Bar Association and ANSI are so in bed together, no matter what attorney you get, it's going to be problematic because you cannot stand in that courtroom. It's already tainted. It's a terrible ordeal. And there's a statistic that's out between the plaintiff and between the defendant. They said 85% of those questioned in a lawsuit, the defendant's attorney and the plaintiff's attorney, the people that were the plaintiff and the defendant, said that they thought that their attorneys cavorted, maybe for lunch, maybe for dinner, on the golf course. Isn't that disgusting? 85% said that their attorneys we're fooling around with each other. Nice. My telephone number is 203-556-1493, and my email is daryltqrs@yahoo.com. I apologize profusely for the length of this, but you have to see this to believe it.